Oi, check it! I got another Milton Bradley Vectrex. It's even still got its shed dust, which is how you know it's valuable. This is a super unique video game console which has its own built-in CRT display because a normal TV is incapable of drawing graphics the way this thing does. I'm told I'm going to have to fix this one because it doesn't work, but first I want to make it clean. So now I guess we just test it and see what it does. The controller folds down from here. The power switch is down here in the dark. It's also the volume control. I'm going to turn it on now. Nothing. Normally you can hear a buzz immediately from the screen just working. So I guess we're gonna dive in immediately. Now let's have a look in here. For the most part, this board over here is all the analog electronics with the power supply and the monitor. There's some rust up here, which is very nice. And this one down here is the digital electronics, the actual game console, if you like. This seems a lot like a power issue, so I'm gonna go for that first. This is called a transformer. It takes mains AC voltage in this case and steps it down to something that this board is a bit happier with. They're a common fail point in these systems, so I'm checking that first. It has 3 wires going into it, but they're just so you can select 220 or 240 volts, so we're only actually using 2 of them. The fuse is okay, and measuring the resistance across the input, I've got something there, which means it's not open circuit, and that side's probably working. The other side of the transformer has 2 voltage lines coming out of it and 1 common line, so measuring ohms between the common line and where these red wires go to, I've got one that measures okay, and both of them measure okay. The fact that they're only half an ohm is fine in this case. Now, by far the most common failure I see in Vectrex consoles is the power switch gums up with dried out grease and won't work anymore. There are 2 halves to the switch. Sometimes only one half stops working, so the Vectrex seems like it's trying to do something, but it doesn't really do the right thing. It's easy to dismiss the power switch as being the problem when you see something happening. It can definitely still be the power switch. Let's see if that's working. Nope. Nothing going through the power switch on that side. Ah, see? I've got a little bit happening on the other side, but it's definitely not what it should be. This should be 0 ohms, not 670,000 ohms. So what I'm doing now is I'm connecting some jumper wires across the power switch to see if it bursts into life or into flames. These have a game built in called Mindstorm, so you don't have to have a cartridge in there to test it. I'm gonna plug it in 3, 2, 1, now. I can hear the screen trying to work. Oh, we've got sound! What about some brightness? Well, that was easy. Look at that. We're working. So the power switch is gummed up with grease and I have to dig my way in there to pull it apart and clean it out. Although it is bouncing around a fair bit. And I do apologize for the flashing. I have no idea how to film a Vectrex screen. It has a variable refresh rate. With normal CRTs, I synchronize the camera to the refresh rate and then it looks like it's not flickering. The refresh rate on these things is dependent on how much is being drawn on the screen, so you're just gonna see a flicker, I'm sorry. It is solid in real life though. This is the back of the power switch down here. I'm pretty sure I can just rebuild it from here. I know from experience that it's painful without taking this board out, but it's also pretty painful to take this board out. So we're just gonna try this way first. There are 3 little metal retainers around the outside of the power switch. To get the power switch out, you've got to bend all 3 of them out so it can get past them. Then very carefully lift the power switch out. The whole thing will disintegrate and it's very, very hard to put back together, and some kind of insect has made a nest in here. That's why it doesn't work. Maybe with a little less of this garbage in here, we might have some more luck with it. Normally, it's just solidified grease. This is my first insect nest in a Vectrex power switch. Oh no, wait, it's got solidified grease as well. These 2 things need to swing really easily because it's actually spring tension that makes these contacts close. This one's not even moving when I'm pressing on it. A bit of isopropyl in there. The contact's moving again with a screwdriver. Really got to rinse out all that old goop and disgusting goopers. To clean the contacts specifically, use a piece of printer paper, spray some ISO on it, chuck it between the contacts, close the contacts with a little bit of pressure, pull the piece out, do that a few times. You can see there's stuff on the paper. For lubricating whatevers, I've been using Super Lube because I got given a free sample and I haven't run out of it yet. It seems to work. Work that in and work it, work it, work it. The way this switch works is that there's this weird plastic dog bone thing in the middle of here which moves both the switches together. That gets moved by this brown piece of plastic here which slots into the hole and gets moved via this spring by this metal thingamathing here. Switching this way is on, switching this way is off. But here's where the difficulty comes in. This likes to be assembled the way up it is here. It's mounted in the Vectrex the opposite way up. So here's the easy part, putting this assembly back in here. And with this sitting in here with spring tension on it, pushing it to the side, I have to somehow fit this over the top so that that white bone looking thing fits into these 2 contacts. If you do it in the off position, it's slightly easier. Then you can maybe, oh, that's not gonna work. Oh, it's all just disintegrating. Yeah, all right. So every single part of this is difficult. If you see here, here, this nipply looking thing here goes into that hole down in there. So the plastic bone's going to be in this orientation. You can use the 2 rivets on the top as a guide for what direction you're pointing in. Then you just got to think of as many curse words as you can because you're going to need all of them. There is no way it's going to behave the first time, and you're probably just going to continue struggling for ages. Just trying something because I'm failing. I'm going to wrap a wire around this whole mechanism and see if it'll hold it together enough for me to put it in. And it's not even holding it together at the moment, so probably not. I don't know if that worked at all. It did not. Okay, another try with the wire because it feels kind of promising. Did that work? Something's not in properly. Oh, it just dropped down. Hey, it's in. Now I just got to bend the metal things back up without snapping them, and we should be in business. My power switch still clicks. The biggest thing that happens when you're trying to reassemble these is that you get it back together and then it doesn't click anymore because the thing's mislocated and something, it's bad. Soldering the reset button back on because forgetting that is annoying. And maybe this time we'll get life off the power switch. 3, 2, 1. We got life. I love it. Even the text is okay, quite often it gets skewed and looks terrible. There is this wobble to it here, which may be an issue. The built-in game's called Mindstorm. It's a blatant Asteroids clone, and on most Vectrex units, you can only get to level 13 before the game crashes, because the developers never got that far when they were testing. And I have never gotten that far either. Oh, hang on a sec, I almost forgot, it's got colour. Have a look at that. Who needs a colour TV, eh? So the reason why this thing has its own built-in CRT is because it uses something called vector graphics. A regular old CRT TV, which was standard at the time this thing was released, aside from having its screen in landscape mode, where this is portrait, made its images by drawing a complete horizontal line, then moving down, drawing the next complete horizontal line, then moving down and drawing the next complete horizontal line. Even if there was nothing in that space, it would just trace there without any emission. This is called a raster scan mode. There are some raster images in these, like it's showing now, but it doesn't have to scan the entire screen. If it wants a line that goes from here to here, it just draws a line straight from here to here. So instead of having to scan across this 1,000 times and just light up dots to create the image, it's actually drawing each line in these shapes as a single line. And that's also how it has a variable refresh rate, because how long a screen refresh takes depends on how much stuff is on the screen. Of course, you're not seeing a vector display for how it actually looks because you're seeing it on a screen via a camera. But if you're ever given the chance, you should definitely check out one of these things in person. They look great. I did get a whole bunch of games and stuff with it, so we'll check out one of those as well, just to test the cartridge port. Ah, look at this. Someone's lent their paper on it when they've written a do not touch sign. That's gonna be there forever now. Oh wow, these boxes smell like old. Ah, look at the condition of that. That's amazing. Here's our color for rip-off. Cartridge in the side here, and hopefully it works. Should tell us the title in a moment. Yay! Ominous music. Oh, I'm protecting the triangles, that's right. They're trying to rip me off. Those triangles are mine. You can't take them. Hey, give me back my triangles. Give me back my triangles. Oh, there we go. I saved my triangles. Those triangles are really flickery. Hey, that's me. Oi, give me back my I took my triangle. Oi, they're ripping me off real good. They are fast too. But man, the graphics are so fluid. Does this have levels, or do I just keep going until I lose my triangles? Is this a losing battle? Can I never win? Oi! I've only got one triangle left now. Ah, I'm gonna lose my triangle. Oi, come back here. Oh, I lost it. End. Now I'm gonna use my Vecstream flash cartridge to run the official test program for this. All the fart noises work, the geometry looks good. Some screens are quite flickery. I'm not really sure if that's normal or not. It's been a while since I've adjusted one of these, especially screens like this, very, very flickery. This screen is always a bit wobbly like this. I'm not too worried there. Yeah, I think this wobble could be corrected. I don't remember this screen flickering this much either, so I reckon we're probably gonna be doing some fault finding. So here's my old Vectrex. It's been adjusted before and it's looking quite good and quite a bit more stable than the one I've just fixed. There's definitely a weird wiggly thing going on with this one that we're gonna have to find. And wow, having the buzz from two Vectrex systems at the same time is quite a bit. Thankfully, there is a service manual and a troubleshooting guide that's available online, so hopefully I'll just be able to follow that and see what's wrong. The first thing it wants me to do if my symptom is ripple in picture or shaking or flashing is to measure how smooth the power is at this point here. If it deviates by more than 0.05 volts, we've got got a problem, and it's deviating by over a volt. So that's a little bit out of spec when we want 0.05. Now the manual does suggest some components to check, but I had a feeling that I needed to go back further than what they're suggesting here, so I decided to measure where the power comes in from the power switch. On this side, we've got a nice AC waveform here. This is what I expected. I mean, it's not that nice, but it's there. And on the other side, we don't. But if I measure straight onto the wire that's soldered to the board right here, I get the waveform. It's not making it from the wire to the board, even though it's attached. And there you were thinking the power switch was going to be bad after I fixed it, weren't you? This is a bad solder joint issue. So I'll remove that, clip the wire a bit shorter so we can start afresh, solder it back on, and now we've got a nice waveform at both sides. The wobble's at least as good as my old one. These things are never perfect. Now we've just got to do some geometry adjustments. These bright lines at the edges are supposed to line up with the edges of the tube, but my experience is that if you set it up this way, the games that have fine details on the overlays don't really line up. Flipper Pinball has a lot of stuff like this, most of it doesn't line up, so I prefer to do my adjustments with a game rather than the test cartridge. Starhawk is another one with an intricate overlay which you can match up the middle notch with, although if you look closely, the lines on the overlay aren't actually symmetrical and the ones on the game are, so you're never going to get perfect, you just want to get close enough. So with the back on again, I can do memes again. And I reckon we're done. Thanks for watching. If you want early ad-free access to all my videos, you can join me on Floatplane for $2.50 a month. I'm also a massive video game collector and you'll also get a photo of every single thing that I get. Or if you just want the photos and to be part of my community, you can join me for $1 a month. The link's in the description, I'll see you there.